Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Defiance, watching the stars through the main view screen. The ship had been patrolling the outer edge of human space for 3 months now. It was quiet work, but Jake knew that quiet could change very quickly out here. "Captain, we're picking up something strange on the sensors," said Lieutenant Amy Walsh from her position at the tactical station. Her voice was calm, but Jake could hear the tension underneath. "What kind of strange?" Jake walked over to look at her screen. "Multiple contacts, sir. They just appeared out of nowhere. 12 ships arranged in attack formation." Amy's fingers moved quickly over her controls. "They're big, Captain. Much bigger than us." Commander Roy Davis looked up from the engineering station. "Sir, these readings don't match anything in our database. The energy signatures are completely unknown." Jake felt his heart rate increase, but his voice stayed steady. "All hands, this is the captain. We have unknown vessels approaching. Battle stations." Red lights flashed throughout the ship as the crew moved to their combat positions. Jake had trained with these people for 2 years. He trusted them completely. "Incoming transmission, Captain," reported Communications Officer Lisa Parker. Put it on screen. The view screen changed to show a tall alien being. Its skin looked like it was made of crystal, and its eyes glowed with a cold blue light. When it spoke, its voice was translated by the ship's computer. "I am War Commander Vexathul of the Zephyrian Empire. You will surrender your vessel immediately. Resistance will result in your destruction." Jake looked at the alien commander for a moment. He had always wondered what humanity's first contact with aliens would be like. He had hoped it would be peaceful. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the USS Defiance. We are on a peaceful mission in our own territory. We have no intention of surrendering." Vexthul's crystalline features showed what might have been surprise. "Your own territory? This space now belongs to the Zephyrian Empire. You primitive beings have no claim here." "I disagree," Jake said calmly. "This is human space, and we defend what is ours." The alien commander made a sound that the translator couldn't interpret. "You would fight us? Look at your pathetic vessel compared to our fleet. You cannot win." Jake glanced around his bridge. Amy was ready at weapons. Roy had his hands on the engineering controls. Lisa was monitoring communications. Every face showed the same thing. Determination. "Maybe not," Jake admitted. "But we'll sure as hell try." The transmission ended. Jake took a deep breath and turned to his crew. "Well, people, looks like we're making history today. Amy, what's our tactical situation?" 12 enemy vessels in a standard encirclement pattern. They're about twice our size, and their energy readings suggest they have some serious firepower. Amy paused. "But Captain, they're positioning themselves like they expect us to just sit here and take it." "Roy, how are our systems?" "All green, Captain. The new redundant backup systems are online. Even if they hurt us bad, we can keep fighting." Roy's voice carried a note of pride. He had designed many of those backup systems himself. "Lisa, send a message to Earth Command. Full tactical data on these aliens. Tell them we're engaging." "Message sent, sir. But it'll be hours before any help can get here." "I know." Jake looked at the alien ships on the tactical display. "We just need to buy Earth some time to prepare, and maybe teach these crystal heads that humans aren't as easy as they think." On the lead Zephyrian ship, Vexthul was having his own conversation with his officers. "Sub-Commander Kielnara, scan that human vessel. I want to know exactly how quickly we can destroy it." The female Zephyrian worked at her scientific instruments. "Beginning deep scan now, War Commander. Initial readings show primitive fusion, reactors and basic kinetic weapons. This should be simple." But as the scan continued, Kielnara's expression began to change. "War Commander, I'm getting some unusual readings. Their ship construction is different from what we expected." "Different how?" "They have backup systems for everything. Not just primary and secondary backups, but third and fourth level redundancies. Their hull isn't just armored, it's designed to spread damage across the entire structure." Vexthul dismissed this with a wave. "Primitive defensive thinking. Overwhelming firepower conquers all defenses." "Yes, sir. But there's more. I'm reading the crew's biological signatures. Their stress hormones are elevated, but not in the way we usually see in species facing defeat. Explain. They're not afraid, War Commander. If anything, they seem to be entering some kind of enhanced combat state. Their reaction times are actually improving under stress. This gave Vexthul pause. In all his years of conquest, he had never encountered a species that got better at fighting when threatened. Continue the scan. I want to know everything about these humans before we destroy them. Back on the Defiance, Jake was making his plans. Amy, when they attack, don't try to fight them ship to ship. Use our maneuverability. Make them chase us through their own formation. Aye, sir, turn their numbers against them. Roy, I want you ready to overload any damaged sections on my command. If we're going down, we take some of them with us. Already programmed, Captain. They'll get a nasty surprise if they think we're finished. Jake smiled grimly. The aliens had made a mistake. They saw one human ship against 12 alien vessels and thought it would be an easy victory. They didn't understand that humans had been fighting against bad odds for their entire history. Sir, Lisa called out, I'm picking up more transmissions between the alien ships. They're still scanning us. Let them scan, Jake said. The more they study us, the more time Earth has to prepare, and maybe they'll learn something they don't. Like? He was right. On the Zephyrian flagship, Sub-Commander Kilnara was discovering things that made no sense. War Commander, I've accessed their database. This ship, it's not their most powerful vessel. According to their records, it's classified as a standard patrol cruiser. That's impossible. What kind of species puts this much defensive capability into a patrol ship? A species that expects to fight, sir, and there's more. Their database references thousands of other vessels, defense platforms, and weapons we've never seen before. Vexthul stared at the human ship on his display. For the first time in his military career, he began to feel uncertain. Prepare for attack, he ordered. Whatever these humans think they can do, we have superior numbers and firepower. But deep down, he was starting to wonder if he had made a terrible mistake. Sub-Commander Kilnara had been scanning alien vessels for 15 years. She had analyzed the technology of 17 different species before they were conquered by the Zephyrian Empire. But the readings she was getting from the human ship made no sense. War Commander, the scan is revealing some very disturbing information, she reported to Vexthul. Disturbing how? Are their weapons more powerful than we thought? No, sir. Their weapons appear to be exactly what they seem. Kinetic projectiles, basic energy weapons, nothing that should threaten our shields. Kilnara paused, looking at her readings again. But their ship design philosophy is completely different from anything we've encountered. Vexthul moved to stand behind her workstation. Show me. The display showed a cutaway view of the USS Defiance. Look at this, sir. Every critical system has not just one backup but multiple backups. Their life support has 6 independent systems. Their power grid can be rerouted through dozens of different pathways. Wasteful design. Efficiency is what matters in warfare. That's what I thought too, sir. But look at this simulation. Kilnara ran a projection showing battle damage to the human vessel. Even after losing 60% of their primary systems, the ship can still fight at nearly full capacity. On the Defiance, Commander Roy Davis was making final preparations for battle. He moved through the engineering sections, checking systems that he had spent years perfecting. Johnson, how are the backup reactors? All green, Commander. If the main reactor goes down, we can switch to auxiliary power without losing a beat. Good. Remember, if we take heavy damage, don't try to repair everything at once. Let the backup systems handle it and focus on keeping our weapons online. Roy had learned something important during his years in space. Ships got damaged in battle, that was a fact. But a ship that could keep fighting while damaged would always beat a ship that couldn't. Back on the Zephyrian flagship, Kilnara was discovering more troubling information. War Commander, I've completed the biological scan of the human crew. The results are unprecedented. What do you mean? Their stress responses are unlike anything in our databases. Most species show decreased performance when facing mortal danger. Fear makes them slower, less accurate, more prone to mistakes. Kilnara highlighted the human crew's vital signs. These humans are showing the opposite pattern. Vexthol studied the data. The humans' heart rates were elevated, but their brain activity showed increased focus and faster processing speeds. Their muscle tension indicated readiness for action, not paralysis from fear. They're actually becoming more effective as the threat level increases, Kylanara continued. It's as if they evolved specifically for combat situations. Lieutenant, Amy Walsh was experiencing exactly what the aliens were observing. The presence of enemy ships had triggered something deep in her biology. Her vision seemed sharper. Her reactions were faster. The tactical situation that should have been overwhelming felt like a puzzle she could solve. Captain, I've analyzed their formation. They're positioned for maximum firepower, but they've left gaps we can exploit. Show me. Amy highlighted the tactical display. If we accelerate directly toward their center, they'll have to be careful about crossfire. Then we can use their own ships as cover while we target their flanks. Jake looked at the formation. Amy was right. The aliens were positioned like they expected the human ship to try running away or hiding behind asteroids. They weren't ready for a direct assault. That's a dangerous plan, Amy. We'll be taking fire from all sides. Yes, sir. But only for a few seconds. Once we're inside their formation, the advantage shifts to us. Amy's voice carried complete confidence. Besides, they probably think we're too scared to try it. Meanwhile, Kylanara was making another discovery that chilled Vexthul to his crystalline bones. War Commander, I've accessed more of their database. This patrol ship isn't operating alone. It's part of a larger defensive network. How large? According to their military organization charts, this is one of hundreds of patrol vessels. They have battle cruisers, carriers, dreadnoughts, and ship classes I can't even identify. Kylanara's voice dropped to almost a whisper. Sir, I think we've made a terrible mistake. Explain. This isn't first contact with a primitive species. This is contact with an established military power. They've been preparing for interstellar warfare for decades. Vexthul felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Doubt. Are you certain? I'm reading technical specifications for weapons and defensive systems that surpass our own technology in some areas. And sir, their database indicates they've been studying other alien civilizations for years. They know about us. On the Defiance, Communications Officer Lisa Parker was monitoring alien transmissions when she picked up something interesting. Captain, I'm detecting increased chatter between the enemy ships. They seem to be having some kind of argument. Can you translate any of it? Partial translation, sir. Something about unexpected findings and reassess threat level. I think their scan is telling them things they don't like. Jake allowed himself a small smile. Good. Roy, are you ready with those surprise packages? Ready, Captain. If they want to scan us, let's give them something interesting to look at. Roy activated a series of subsystems that he had designed specifically for this moment. To alien sensors, the Defiance would now appear to have additional weapon systems and defensive capabilities that weren't there before. The effect on the Zephyrian scanners was immediate. War Commander. Kylanara's voice was urgent. Their ship is revealing additional systems we didn't detect before. Hidden weapon emplacements, some kind of adaptive shielding, and energy signatures I can't identify. Is it possible we missed them in the initial scan? No, sir. They weren't there before. Either they were completely masked from our sensors, or they just brought them online. Kylanara ran the new data through her computers. War Commander, if these readings are accurate, this single ship might be able to damage several of our vessels. Vexthul looked at the human ship with new respect. It sat there calmly, not trying to run or hide, just waiting for the battle to begin. For a species that was supposedly primitive, they were showing remarkable confidence. Sir, another officer called out. I'm detecting an energy buildup from the human vessel. They're preparing to move. All ships prepare for combat, Vexthul ordered, but privately he wondered if he should have ordered a retreat instead. On the Defiance, Jake gave the order that would change everything. All hands. This is the captain. We're going in. Remember, we're not just fighting for our ship, we're fighting for Earth, and we're showing these aliens what humans can do. Amy, take us in. Aye, sir. Beginning attack run. The USS Defiance accelerated directly toward the center of the alien formation. To the Zephyrians, It looked like suicide. But Jake Morrison and his crew knew something the aliens didn't understand. Sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is exactly what your enemy doesn't expect. The USS Defiance shot forward like a bullet toward the center of the alien formation. On the Zephyrian flagship, War Commander Vexthul watched in disbelief. They're attacking directly into our formation. Are they insane? All ships open fire, he commanded. 12 alien vessels unleashed their weapons at the single human ship. Bright energy beams and plasma bolts filled the space around the Defiance. But Lieutenant Amy Walsh had planned for this. Hard to port. Rolling dive, she called out to the helmsman. The ship twisted and spun through the incoming fire, moving like a dancer through the deadly light show. How are they doing that? Sub-Commander Kyle Nara watched her instruments in amazement. Their ship shouldn't be that maneuverable. The truth was that Amy had studied every piece of combat data in the human archives. She had analyzed fighter pilot tactics, submarine warfare, and even ancient naval battles. While other species built ships like floating fortresses, humans built ships like weapons. Return fire all weapons, Jake ordered. The Defiance's guns spoke for the first time, but instead of the simple kinetic rounds the aliens expected, they fired smart ammunition that Commander Roy Davis had helped design. Each projectile carried sensors and a small computer that analyzed its target during flight. The first salvo struck a Zephyrian destroyer. Instead of bouncing off the shields as expected, the smart rounds found weak points in the shield matrix and punched through. Explosions bloomed along the alien ship's hull. Impossible, Vexthul breathed. Their primitive weapons just penetrated our shields. War Commander, those weren't primitive weapons, Kyle Nara reported. Each projectile adapted to our shield frequency during flight. They're using adaptive ammunition. But the real surprise came when the Defiance reached the center of the alien formation. Instead of trying to fight its way out, the ship suddenly reversed course and headed for the edge of the formation. As it moved, it fired constantly, targeting specific systems on each alien vessel. They're not trying to destroy us, Kyle Nara realized. They're trying to disable our weapons and engines. They want to cripple our entire fleet. On the Defiance, Amy was executing a battle plan that would have been impossible for most species to even attempt. She was using the alien ship's own formation against them, forcing them to be careful about their firing angles to avoid hitting each other. 2 more seconds, then hard turn to starboard, she called out. The ship spun around a Zephyrian cruiser, using its bulk as a shield while targeting another vessel. Direct hit on their engine section, reported Weapons Officer Sam Parker. The young officer was experiencing the same combat enhancement as the rest of the crew. His targeting solutions were faster and more accurate than anything he had achieved. In training, Roy Davis was monitoring the ship's systems from engineering. Captain, we've taken some hits, but all backup systems are functioning. We can keep this up for hours. That was when the aliens learned another disturbing truth about human technology. As the battle continued, the Defiance's computer systems were analyzing every alien weapon that fired at them. The ship's adaptive AI was learning how to counter Zephyrian tactics in real time. Their defensive patterns are changing, one of Vexthul's officers reported. They're adapting to our weapons. How is that possible? Unknown, sir, but their evasion effectiveness has increased by 30% in the last 5 minutes. The truth was that Roy had designed the ship's AI to treat every battle as a learning experience. Every shot fired at the Defiance was analyzed, recorded, and used to improve their defensive algorithms. The longer the fight went on, the harder the human ship became to hit. But the most shocking moment came when a Zephyrian destroyer managed to score a direct hit on the Defiance's port side. The explosion tore away armor plating and disabled several weapon systems. We have them, Vexthul thought. Then the damaged section exploded outward with far more force than the original hit should have caused. The blast caught the attacking destroyer by surprise, overwhelming its shields and cracking its hull. What just happened? Vexthul demanded. The humans deliberately overloaded their damaged fusion reactor, Kyle Nara reported in shock. They turned their own battle damage into a weapon. On the Defiance, Roy was already rerouting power around the damaged section. Backup systems online, Captain. We've lost some firepower, but we're still in the fight. Outstanding work, Roy. Amy, what's our status? 2 alien ships disabled, 1 heavily damaged. They're starting to spread out their formation, but that just gives us more maneuvering room. Jake nodded. The aliens were learning that their standard tactics didn't work against humans, but humans were very good at adapting their tactics during battle. Sam, target their communication arrays. Let's see how well they coordinate when they can't talk to each other. Sam Parker's weapons found their marks with precision that amazed even him. The young officer was discovering that combat brought out abilities he didn't know he had. Under pressure, his mind seemed to work faster and more clearly than ever before. The Zephyrian formation was beginning to fall apart. Ships were moving out of position to avoid the darting human vessel. Communication between vessels was disrupted. Several ships had damage that reduced their combat effectiveness. War Commander, Kyle Nara said quietly. I'm detecting something else. The human ship has been transmitting throughout this battle. Transmitting what? Everything, sir. Complete tactical data on our ships, our weapons, our formations. They're sending it all back to their homeworld. Vexthal felt his crystalline skin grow cold. They're not trying to win this battle. They're gathering intelligence for their war machine. He was right. Jake Morrison had no illusions about defeating 12 alien warships with his single vessel. But he could make sure that Earth learned everything possible about these new enemies. Lisa, are you getting good recordings of their technology? Yes, sir. Complete scans of their weapons, shields, and ship construction. Command will know exactly what they're facing. Good. Now let's teach them one more lesson about fighting humans. Jake turned to his tactical officer. Amy, I want you to ram that command ship. The bridge crew looked at him in surprise, but Amy nodded without hesitation. Aye, sir. Ramming speed. The Defiance turned toward Vexthal's flagship and accelerated. But this wasn't a suicide run. At the last moment, Amy pulled up sharply, passing just meters over the alien ship's hull while Roy triggered another overloaded reactor. The explosion damaged both ships, but the aliens had taken the worst of it. Their shields were down, and their main weapons were offline. Sir, we have multiple system failures, a Zephyrian officer reported. Hull breaches on decks 4 through 7. Vexthal stared at the human ship, which was limping away with heavy damage, but still fighting. In 15 minutes of combat, these primitive beings had taught him more about warfare than he had learned in 20 years of conquest. All ships withdraw to safe distance, he ordered. Sir? His tactical officer was confused. You heard me. Pull back. We need to reconsider our approach. As the alien ships moved away, Jake allowed himself to relax slightly. They had survived the first round, and more importantly, they had shown the aliens that humans were not easy prey. But he knew this was only the beginning. The real war was about to start. War Commander Vexthal was trying to make sense of what had just happened when his sensors detected new contacts approaching the battle zone. Multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace. His tactical officer reported. 3 vessels approaching. Fast. Sub-Commander Kyle Nara worked frantically at her instruments. War Commander, these new ships are much larger than the first one, and their energy signatures are completely different. The first ship to arrive was the USS Vengeance, a heavy cruiser that made the Defiance look small by comparison. Captain Lisa Chen stood on its bridge, studying the tactical situation with cold professional interest. Communications. Contact the Defiance. Jake, what's your status? Lisa, good to see you. We're banged up but still fighting. I count 9 operational alien ships plus 3 damaged ones. Copy that. We'll take it from here. Fall back and let us show these crystals what a real warship looks like. The second ship was the USS Storm, an assault carrier commanded by Captain Nick Thompson. As soon as it arrived, fighter squadrons began launching from its bays. Wing Commander Tony Russell led the first wave, his pilots eager to engage the alien fleet. Storm leader to all fighters, we have multiple bogies in standard formation. Remember your training and watch each other's backs. The third ship was perhaps the most dangerous of all, even though it was the smallest. The USS Shadow was humanity's first stealth warship, and Commander Karen Foster used its advanced cloaking systems to appear and disappear like a ghost. On the Zephyrian flagship, panic was beginning to set in. War Commander, The new human ships are taking aggressive positions. The large one is targeting our heaviest cruiser. And sir, another officer added, we're detecting fighter craft, dozens of them. Where's the third ship? Vexthul demanded. Unknown, sir. It disappeared from our sensors immediately after arrival. Kilonara was working desperately to scan the new arrivals. What she found made her wish they had never encountered humanity. War Commander, the heavy cruiser is reading as a pure combat vessel. No science stations, no exploration equipment. It's built for one purpose, destroying other ships. The USS Vengeance lived up to its name. Captain Lisa Chen had spent her entire career studying how to destroy enemy vessels efficiently. Her ship carried weapons that could crack a planet's crust and armor that could withstand a direct hit from a nuclear weapon. Target their flagship, she ordered. Full power to main guns. The Vengeance's main weapons fired, and space lit up, with energy beams that made the Defiance's guns look like toys. The Zephyrian flagship's shields flared and died under the assault. Shields down to 30%, Vexthul's tactical officer reported. That was just their opening shot. But the heavy cruiser was only part of the problem. Wing Commander Tony Russell's fighters were swarming around the alien fleet like angry hornets. Each small craft was piloted by a human who had grown up dreaming of space combat. Russell to Storm Base, these alien ships are big and slow. We can fly circles around them. The human fighters moved through three-dimensional space with an ease that astounded the Zephyrians. While alien pilots thought in terms of ship-to-ship combat, human pilots thought in terms of dogfighting. They used asteroids, debris, and even the hulls of enemy ships as cover while making their attack runs. How are they flying like that? One Zephyrian pilot asked over the radio. Unknown. Their ships shouldn't be that maneuverable in vacuum. What the aliens didn't understand was that humans had been dreaming of space combat for centuries before they achieved it. Every human pilot had watched movies, read books, and played games that prepared them for exactly this kind of fighting. Meanwhile, the USS Shadow was doing what it did best, gathering intelligence and striking without warning. Commander Karen. Foster had positioned her ship where the aliens couldn't see it, recording everything about their technology. Communications. I'm reading their tactical frequencies. Patch me through to the fleet. All ships. This is Shadow. I have complete electronic intelligence on the enemy. Sending targeting data now. Suddenly, every human weapon became twice as effective. The Shadow had identified weak points in alien armor, gaps in their formations, and flaws in their tactical coordination. On the Zephyrian flagship, Kilonara was making discoveries that terrified her. War Commander, I've accessed the database of the new human ships. These vessels represent different classes of their military. Different how? The heavy cruiser is designed for fleet combat against large opponents. The carrier is built to project power across vast distances using small craft. The stealth ship is optimized for reconnaissance and electronic warfare. Kilnara paused. Sir, they have specialized vessels for every type of combat situation. How many ships do they have? Kilnara's voice dropped to a whisper. Thousands, War Commander, and these are just the ones operating in this sector. Captain Lisa Chen was systematically destroying the alien fleet. Her approach was methodical and terrifying. She didn't just damage enemy ships. She eliminated them so completely that nothing remained but debris. Target the next cruiser. Full salvo. The Zephyrian vessel tried to maneuver away, but the Vengeance's guns tracked it easily. The alien ship exploded in a ball of plasma that lit up space for thousands of kilometers. That's 2 down, Lisa reported calmly. Jake, how are your repairs coming? Almost back to full combat effectiveness, Jake replied from the Defiance. Ready to rejoin the fight. Negative. Fall back and observe. This is a learning experience. For all of us. What Jake and his crew were learning was that the USS Defiance represented the smallest part of humanity's war machine. Earth had been preparing for interstellar conflict for generations, and every aspect of human military doctrine had been designed around one simple principle: overwhelming superiority through superior preparation. Wing Commander Tony Russell's Fighters had destroyed 3 more alien ships using tactics that the Zephyrians couldn't counter. Human pilots didn't just fly their ships, they became one with them, using intuition and reflexes that millions of years of evolution had provided. Storm Leader to all wings, these aliens fight like they're still on the surface of a planet. They don't understand 3-dimensional combat. Meanwhile, Commander Karen Foster was demonstrating humanity's mastery of information warfare. The Shadow had infiltrated the alien communication network and was feeding false information to their ships. Zephyrian vessels are receiving contradictory orders, she reported. Their formation is breaking down. Vexthul watched his fleet being destroyed with growing horror. In less than an hour, these humans had demonstrated military capabilities that surpassed everything the Zephyrian Empire had achieved in centuries of conquest. War Commander, we must retreat, Kyle Nara urged. We cannot win this battle. If we retreat, the High Command will want to know why. Tell them the truth, sir. We have encountered a military power that exceeds our own capabilities. Vexthul looked at the tactical display. Half his fleet was gone. The remaining ships were damaged and scattered. The humans were toying with them, now demonstrating different weapons and tactics like they were conducting a training exercise. All ships prepare to withdraw, he finally ordered. But Captain Lisa Chen had other plans. Alien Commander, this is Captain Chen of the USS Vengeance. We have a message for you to take back to your empire. What message? Humanity offers peace to those who approach us with peaceful intentions. We offer trade, cooperation, and friendship. Lisa's voice became cold as ice. But to those who come as conquerors, we promise total war, not just against your military, but against everything you represent. You cannot threaten the entire Zephyrian Empire. We're not threatening you. We're explaining reality. Earth has been preparing for this war for 50 years. We know about your empire, your technology, and your tactics. We've been waiting for you to find us. Kilinara whispered urgently to Vexthul. Sir, my scans show that their ships are still analyzing our technology during combat. They're treating this battle as a learning exercise. The war commander felt his courage crumble. These humans weren't just defending themselves. They were studying his fleet like specimens in a laboratory, preparing for a larger conflict that they had been expecting all along. War Commander Vexthul found himself facing the most important decision of his military career. His fleet was shattered, half his ships were destroyed, and the humans were clearly capable of finishing off the rest whenever they chose. But they weren't pressing their attack. Instead, they seemed to be waiting for something. War Commander, Subcommander Kilnara said quietly, I'm receiving a transmission from the human commander. Put it through. Captain Lisa Chen appeared on the screen, her expression calm but her eyes hard as steel. War Commander Vexthul, you have 2 choices. Surrender and return to your space with a message from humanity, or be destroyed here along with any chance your empire has of avoiding a war it cannot win. You speak boldly for someone commanding just 3 ships. 3 ships? Lisa smiled. And it wasn't a pleasant expression. Jake, show our new friend what's coming. The display changed to show long-range sensors. Dozens of new contacts were approaching through hyperspace. More human warships, heading for the battle zone. Those are just the ships from this sector. Lisa continued. Earth's full battle fleet numbers in the thousands. We've been building and preparing for decades, waiting for someone like you to give us a reason to use them. Vexthul stared at the sensor readings. Each new ship that appeared represented capabilities he couldn't fully understand. Some were larger than anything the Zephyrian Empire had ever built. Others were small and fast, designed for purposes he could only guess at. Impossible, he whispered. Commander Karen Foster transmitting from the Shadow. A new voice joined the conversation. War Commander, my ship has been recording everything about your technology. Your weapons, your shields, your engines, even your life support systems. By the time this conversation ends, we'll know how to counter everything your empire can deploy against us. Kyle Nara was working frantically at her station. War Commander, she's right. Their stealth ship has conducted detailed scans of our entire fleet. They know more about our technology than some of our own engineers. But the final shot came from an unexpected source. Captain Jake Morrison aboard the battered USS Defiance activated his communication system. War Commander, I want you to understand something important. My ship represents the oldest and most basic design in our current fleet. The Defiance was built 15 years ago using technology we now consider outdated. What are you saying? I'm saying that everything you've seen today, every capability that surprised you, represents the bottom of our technological ladder. The real warships are just now arriving. As if summoned by his words, the newest arrivals dropped out of hyperspace. Vexthul's tactical officers scrambled to analyze the new contacts, but their instruments could barely comprehend what they were seeing. War Commander, one officer reported in a shaking voice. The largest ship reads as being over 2 kilometers long. Its power output exceeds our entire fleet combined. And sir, another added, I'm detecting weapon signatures unlike anything in our database. Some of them appear to manipulate space-time itself. Dr. Amy Brooks, the Defiance's chief medical officer, had been studying the psychological effects of combat on her crew throughout the battle. Now she had something important to add to the conversation. War Commander, may I speak as a scientist? You may. My species evolved on a world that tried to kill us every day. Predators, diseases, natural disasters, climate changes that wiped out entire civilizations. We didn't just survive these challenges, we thrived because of them. Her voice was calm, but carried absolute conviction. Every threat made us stronger, smarter, more adaptable. When we reached space, we brought that same mindset with us. What does this have to do with our current situation? You represent the first real challenge humanity has faced in over a century. Do you know what our reaction has been? Not fear or panic, but excitement. You've given us a reason to show the galaxy what we're truly capable of. Jake Morrison nodded agreement. She's right, War Commander. Earth's reaction to your attack wasn't defensive preparations. It was anticipation. We've been waiting for someone to test us, to push us to develop new weapons and tactics. You've done us a favor. Vexthul looked around his damaged bridge. His officers were staring at their instruments in growing terror as more human ships arrived. Each one represented technologies and capabilities that his empire couldn't match. What message would you have me carry back? He asked finally. Captain Lisa Chen answered. Tell your high command that humanity is willing to establish peaceful relations with any species that approaches us with honorable intentions. We're prepared to share technology, engage in trade, and work together for mutual benefit. And if they choose war, then they'll learn why Earth has been preparing for this conflict for 50 years. They'll discover that humans don't just fight wars, we perfect them. Every battle teaches us something new about our enemies, and we adapt faster than they can respond. Commander Roy Davis, speaking from the Defiance's engineering section, added his own perspective. War Commander, in the past hour, my ship's computer systems have analyzed your entire fleet. We now know how to counter your shields, disable your weapons, and disrupt your communications. Imagine what we'll know after a full-scale war. More importantly, Wing Commander Tony Russell said from his fighter, we've learned that your pilots think in 2 dimensions while space combat requires 3. Your tactical doctrine assumes that bigger ships always win. Your technology prioritizes raw power over adaptability. These are all weaknesses we can exploit. Sub-Commander Kyle Nara whispered to Vexthul, Sir, they're right about everything. Our entire military philosophy is based on overwhelming primitive species with superior technology. These humans have superior technology and superior tactics. Vexthul made his decision. Very well, I accept your terms, but I must ask, why spare us? You could destroy my remaining ships and eliminate witnesses to your capabilities. Jake Morrison answered, Because, War Commander, we want your empire to know exactly what they're facing. We want them to make an informed decision about whether to pursue peace or war. But we also want them to understand that if they choose war, they'll be fighting a species that has turned conflict into an art form. One final question, Vexthul said. How long have you been preparing for interstellar warfare? Dr. Amy Brooks smiled. War Commander, we've been preparing for interstellar warfare since we first looked up at the stars and wondered what was out there. Every human child grows up dreaming of space battles, Every human engineer designs weapons for enemies. We haven't met yet. Every human pilot trains for combat scenarios that exist only in our imagination. Until today, Lisa Chen added. Today, imagination became reality. As the remaining Zephyrian ships prepared to retreat, Vexthul transmitted one last message. Captain Morrison, I must know, are all human military commanders as capable as you and your colleagues? Jake looked around his bridge at the crew that had fought so brilliantly. War Commander, we're considered average officers in Earth's fleet. The really dangerous humans are still on their way. The Zephyrian ships activated their hyperspace drives and disappeared, carrying news that would reshape galactic politics forever. Behind them, the human fleet began to organize itself for what everyone knew was coming. The first interstellar war in Earth's history. On the bridge of the USS Defiance, Jake Morrison looked at his crew with pride. They had done more than survive humanity's first alien contact. They had announced to the galaxy that humans were not just another species to be conquered. They were the galaxy's new apex predators, and they were ready to prove it. Captain Lisa, Chen's final transmission reached Earth Command 12 hours later. Mission accomplished. First contact established. Alien military capabilities assessed and countered. Recommend full fleet mobilization. The galaxy is about to discover what humans can do when we're properly motivated. In the depths of space, War Commander Vexthul tried to compose a report that would convince the Zephyrian High Command that they had encountered something unprecedented. How could he explain that they hadn't just met another alien species, but had stumbled upon a civilization that had weaponized evolution itself? Behind him, the human fleet grew larger by the hour, each new ship representing humanity's answer to a question the galaxy hadn't known it was asking. What happens when a species that evolved through constant warfare finally reaches the stars? The galaxy was about to find out.